Welcome to another video, everyone. So originally, the plan for today's video was going to be prep and drywall installation all in one video. Thanks to a couple comments, and the more I read online, the more there was to a couple of the prep steps than I originally thought, so I wanted to cover the additional things I looked up that led to me deciding I was going to take a couple of these steps. So in this video, we'll be covering three things specifically. We'll be covering attic ventilation and what I did to make sure the air still circulates throughout the attic once it's all sealed up. We'll cover the bracing for the drywall so that everywhere it needs to, at least that I researched, it'll have somewhere to grab. And then the third, we'll talk about vapor barrier, which seems to be pretty controversial. A lot of people say that they love it, a lot of people say that they hate it, but we're gonna talk about why I decided to go with the vapor barrier for the ceiling in this garage. First part, ventilation for the attic. So once we put the drywall up and seal everything, especially with the vapor barrier, if we don't allow ventilation in the attic, whether we have vents and they're covered by the blow-in insulation, or we don't have vents and there's just not air circulation, it could lead to moisture in the attic, it could lead to other issues. So what we did to solve that is, first, we put up vent baffles and vent channels. There's a whole video on comparing these two, because when I was watching videos online, there was a little bit of confusion in the comments of people trying to use one for the other purpose. So I go over how to install both of those. For the majority of this, we used the baffles and then extended them with the vent channels. So why did we extend them? It's because in my climate zone, which is climate zone 5, they recommend R49 insulation. So to get R49 insulation in the attic with blow-in insulation, we need 22 inches. So I needed to extend those because from the original baffle piece, it was only about 12 inches. So extending it all the way up, extended it to like 26 or 27 inches. So what this does is when I blow in the insulation, there are vents in the soffits out here. So that'll carry air into the attic, and then it'll follow along these vent channels because there'll be insulation all up there. So now, when it goes in the attic, we need a place for it to go out of the attic. I do not have a ridge vent, which a lot of homes, if you see kind of a cap on top of the roof, that's a ridge vent and it lets air out. I don't have one of those. So what I got is a gable vent to install up here where we used to have a floodlight out front. So that'll let air travel in the soffit vent, up the vent channel, and then out through the gable vent so the attic will be able to breathe. So for the plan of how I was going to do this, I needed to choose between DuraVent with the integrated baffle or the DuraVent vent channels. So I originally bought the DuraVent vent channels long before doing this video. It got so late to a point that I couldn't return them. So I went out and I bought the ones with the integrated baffle because I like those better. I installed those for everyone but the first. Since I had the vent channels left over, I used those to extend the vent channels with the integrated baffles. If I was going to do this over again and I was going to buy everything from scratch, I would just go with the baffles and also extend them with the baffles and then tape them where they meet. I think that would be a better seal, and when I did blow in the insulation, it did blow up through the vent channel. I don't think it blew down into the soffit, but I will be removing those at a later time in a later video to replace them with soffit vents. Install is super simple except for stapler issues I'll talk about later. All you have to do is put them up to the ceiling, put in enough staples to hold it, and then move on to the next one. The ones on the edge you do have to cut a little bit, but all you need for that is a pair of scissors. For cost, I have 13 trusses, which makes for 12 vent baffles on each side, for a total of 24 vent channels with integrated baffle. Double it for all the extensions. We used vent channels at $2 a piece. It cost us $100 to put up the vent channels to prep for blow-in insulation. As I said, for proper attic ventilation, you need vents in and vents out for air. We're going to install soffit vents for vents in and a gable vent for vents out, but we're going to do that in a separate video. We got most of the DuraVent baffles and vent channels up. I do have to go get 2 more, so I still have 1 to put there and 1 to put there. This job's pretty easy. I would say just need some patience because sometimes the flaps get stuck and ripped off like the first one I did. The biggest pain in the ass is the staples. I don't know if it's just that I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have good staples. I don't have a good staple gun, but the staple gun gets clogged like every 5 to 10 staples. I have to either get the pliers out or just take out the clip and then fire it off. So I don't know what I'm doing, but if you have any recommendations of staple brand, stapler, or just a better way to staple where it doesn't get jammed all the time, please comment and let me know for next time I have to use this stapler, because that was a huge pain in the ass. But that part's done. The next part is bracing. So when we put the drywall up, we want to make sure it has somewhere to screw into so the drywall is not loose and there's no flex in the drywall. If there's flex in the drywall, it'll crack the seam where the two drywall pieces come together. I know that because I did that downstairs and had to fix it. So what we installed is the drywall will screw into these trusses, but then over on the edge, the truss is on the outside edge of this wall, so it's not going to be able to screw in. So what we had to do is put a little, I don't know, it's probably not called ledger board, but I'm going to call it that. A little board over here so that the drywall can not only screw into the trusses, but it can screw into the board as well. And we did that all around the edge, so it's all through. We did the same up front, but because we brought the wall out a little bit and I wanted the drywall to be flush, I needed to put an extended board along the back plate as well. So there's one there. And then looking up, you can see where the ceiling drywall will mount there, the wall drywall will mount there. A lot of this wood piece will be exposed. We're going to leave that exposed so it can mount directly to the wood, and we're just going to paint it black. So it should look pretty nice, a black outline against gray drywall. The last piece we had to build was right here, and that's where the garage door opener is going to mount. Just like if you had a center mount garage door opener, you have to plan for an outlet. It's somewhere up there. You have to plan for an outlet, you have to plan for a little bit more bracing. Same planning for a side garage door. Another part of drywall prep besides the actual bracing, I guess it's a fourth part, but I needed access to the attic. I needed access because not only did I put braces, actually I'll show you guys. Now we're gonna start on framing because I need to frame somewhere to get up into the attic so I can blow in the insulation. So I'm planning on framing a little door somewhere there. I'll put braces along the top, so not only will it show me how high up the insulation needs to go, but also I can set stuff on top of there. If I do take something up to the attic, I can use it as a shelf, even though there's not going to be much room. So that's what I'm going to get started on now. Planning for drywall bracing is really as little or as much as you want to do. So you want to make sure that there's somewhere for the edges to screw into the drywall. So normally you have 24 on center or 16 on center spacing trusses. You have to cut a little bit off when you first start laying the drywall, but that's not really part of the bracing. So we had to brace the front wall and the back wall where the wall covered the trusses. Then we also braced for the walls of the closet. We also braced for the attic entrance. Both of these might be optional in your case. I needed the attic entrance to get up and do blow-in insulation and for a little bit of storage, and the closet for more storage. For cost, at the bare minimum, you can get away with 6 2x4s. The walls were 24 foot, so I needed 24 foot of 2x4s. So that was 3 in the front and 3 in the back. 2x4s I think are around $4, so let's just say $30. My cost is about 3 times that because I had the attic entrance, the attic bracing, the garage door opener brace, and the garage door brace. So my cost came in around $90 for 2x4s and lumber. And then there's a look at it from down here. So the insulation come up to about right there. And the same on all these beams, so I'll be able to see where it is. So when I stand in the center with a hose and just blow insulation everywhere, I'll be able to clearly see that I have the right R value amount and it's level throughout. All right, so the last part is vapor barrier. I'm going to talk about the majority of this as we watch a time lapse of me installing it, but what we have here is 6mm plastic. The sheet's 10 foot by 100 foot. And then we also have some Tyvek house wrap tape to seal up the seams, because what we'll have is sheets of 10 foot going this way, and then we'll have tape between the seams, and that's all we're gonna put up for the ceiling. Before I say anything, everything I'm gonna say is from stuff I've looked up online, so if you disagree with it, fire away at those comments down below. So what is vapor barrier? Vapor barrier is just a sheet of plastic that does not let vapor or water through. Why would we be looking into a vapor barrier? because when hot and humid air goes through walls and it makes contact with cold air on the other side, the vapor turns back into water, and if that water gets into the insulation, it can cause mold. Now, when might that happen? If you live in the south, it might be very hot outside, very humid, and your house might be air conditioned. In the north, it might be very hot and humid inside from doing dishes, cooling the cars in the garage, and then on the outside it's cold air. Now, in both of these conditions, it's different whether you should put vapor barrier. In the south, you don't want to put vapor barrier on the inside of your garage like we're going to do here, because you're trying to cool it down inside. That hot air is going to come through from the outside, make contact with the back of the plastic, turn into water, and cause mold in your walls. In the north, the thought is when you're in the house, if you're doing dishes, running water, taking baths, all that water vapor inside of the house, if it goes through the wall and hits the cold air and the insulation, it turns into water and then causes mold in the insulation. The reason a lot of people say you don't need a vapor barrier in your garage is because there's not a lot of moisture in your garage. You're not taking baths, doing dishes, running a lot of water. I don't even have water in my garage. But the one thing we're gonna have is we're gonna be pulling the vehicles into the garage with snow on them. I'm also going to keep the garage very warm because I have a heater in there, and it's going to be very cold up in the attic where the air flows into the soffits and out the vents. So it might be 70, 80 degrees in my garage and 0 or negative degrees in the attic, and I don't want that moisture from pulling the cars in the garage covered in snow rising, getting into that insulation and causing mold. So that is what I researched about vapor barrier, and that is why I'm putting one up. When going to install your vapor barrier, the main callouts I read online is to run them the same way your joists are run, to overlap the seams by at least 6 inches, some areas code calls for more than 6 inches, and to tape the seams. My cost to install the vapor barrier was the vapor barrier itself, which was $80, and tape, which was $10. I used a couple staples as well. We can include those in the $10, so a total of $90 to put the vapor barrier up on my ceiling. Now, you can go an extra step and also vapor barrier the walls. You can get acoustic sealant. You can get vapor barrier that goes behind the outlets to make everything not only vapor proof but also air proof, so air doesn't blow through holes in your walls, whether caused by outlets or light openings. We didn't choose to go this route. From what I was reading, this is more recommended for a house with a whole house filtration system that pulls air in from the outside. And we're ready for drywall. Once the drywall hoist arrives, we'll be ready to start hanging the panels. So what all we got done is we got the vapor barrier all across the ceiling. So we have it running along the length of the trusses. We have the lights cut out and taped back around. We have the seams overlapped and taped. I'm going to need to finish this whenever the drywall comes in because I'm going to take down the heater anyways, so no sense taking down the heater, so I could put that up and then putting it back up and then taking it down for the drywall. So we'll just do that all in one shot. But yeah, we have everything done. We have it done in the main part, an entrance for the attic. I'll actually take you up there in a second. Then we have the closet ceiling also done and the stairwell ceiling also done. So every piece of the garage ceiling is vapor barrier except for the attic entrance, which is fine because I'm just gonna have 2 little plywood doors there so I can get up. So let's take a look up inside the attic. All right, we're in the attic. So this is what it looks like from up here. You can see back in the corner we have the vent channel extension installed. We also have what everyone was missing out over here. I was missing 2 of them. So those are installed now. We have all the braces up. We're in the future 2 videos from now, but I wanted to show you guys how the insulation fit with the baffles. Here is now the framing as we showed. We obviously have the vapor barrier and drywall up, and now we have the insulation which blows in like pink snow. There's a whole video on that and a whole video on the drywall, but this is about where it comes up to for the baffling. I originally said we needed 22 inches of insulation. That was wrong. We needed 17, so they come up below the beams, but the beams still let me see all the way down to make sure I was coming up to where I need to come up to. So glad I ran the beams as markers, glad I extended the baffles. That is a wrap for this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. See you next time.